Hey all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode, the solution to your wrestling information problems. Wrestlesode is a member of the Win Column Sports Network, so remember to go check us out at wincolumnsports.ca to be kept up to date on everything happening in Alberta in the world of wrestling. Today, I am incredibly excited to tell you that I am talking Clandestine Society Act I, but it's too monumental, it's too good. I can't do it alone. I need the help and backup of my good friend, Spencer Love.
I was like, am I supposed to say my name now, or are you going to do it? It was almost at the point where I think we would have jinxed each other, but hello. Thank you. I'm glad to be on this. I'm excited to be on this. This is not the first time we've conversed, quite obviously, but this will be the first podcast release of this is like the mega powers coming together, except I call dibs on Randy Savage.
Except, well, no, see, I gotta call dibs on Randy Savage over here. No, it's fine. I'll take the Undertaker because he was my guy.
Cool. We'll make some sort of makeshift mega powers.
Oh, there you go. The under mega. I don't know. Let's move on. So we are here today talking Clandestine Society Act I. Spencer, it is this Saturday.
Dude, I could not be more excited. And much like yourself, I'm certain, once you start seeing all the stuff go up on social media, there was that week where they hadn't even announced any matches. You had no indications whatsoever that they were a show, a brand. They could have been a shoe company for all we know.
We had no idea.
Yeah, up until that Just Wrestling tweet that they sent out. And once we started to see matches getting announced, once you see the first match is MRB, Artemis Spencer, and BVD, and you don't go downhill from there. No. You're in a pretty incredible night.
So I'll say it like this. So I remember when the Clandestine Society started and I saw the first couple of tweets, my brain went, I don't know what this is, but apparently the Masons are starting in Alberta somewhere, something like that. It was some sort of secret cult thing. And then the first video came out where it said no storylines, just wrestling. My brain went, well, okay, hold on, wait a second. Wrestling cult? I didn't know. I had no idea. And like you said, it wasn't until the first match that was announced with MRB, with BVD and Artemis Spencer that I went, wait, whoa, okay, hold on a second. What is happening right now? Because something is blowing my mind. And it's just gotten more exciting since then. And this was 2 months ago almost, right?
I believe so, to be quite honest with you, man. I'm not 100% certain on the timeline. At least a month, no more than a couple of months.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because every couple of days we would get just another little taste of something that was going to be in the Clandestine Society. And it was so good to just keep me interested, to the point where I was tweeting about Clandestine Society on the days where there was no information. Because I'm just sitting over here just waiting for more information to come out. It's like your kid waiting for your author to write their next book. It's oh my God, I'm so excited.
Well, I agree, man. I think it's a very, very cool angle that whoever's behind it is taken with the promotional aspect of it, because not that I think that any other promoters don't do this, but I think that they could do it more often. Is every match on this card, and yes, obviously they're all great matches in and of themselves, but every match on this card feels important because you have a vignette behind it. You've got some people cutting promos, which I'm sure we're going to get to as far as Dylan Stone goes.
Man, that promo.
You've got all of this sort of secrecy behind it. I think that obviously you're not going to have the same impact with the secrecy if you're a PWA or an RCW or whoever, but I think that there's a really, really cool promotional aspect in the sense that every match on this card, for lack of a better comparison, feels like a WrestleMania caliber match.
Yeah, exactly. Alberta Mania match kind of thing.
Alberta Mania, and I do have to say with that one, Alberta Mania has been trademarked by Kyle Shaw of the Monday Night Shaw podcast.
Has it?
Alberta Mania 2 Electric Boogaloo coming up. I have to meet Kyle Shaw. And I mean, the cluster F word is coming up. I don't curse until later in podcasts, until there's kids not listening anymore. But
past the first 13 minutes or so.
He says 40 minutes into our conversation. But I think that Kyle Shaw, he did trademark that. Alberta Mania 2 Electric Boogaloo, to get back to business, is on the card for some point next year, in which we do fantasy book Alberta's WrestleMania.
Oh,
Moving
that's
on, Anthony.
yeah, moving on. Well, let's talk so let's give people a little bit of an overview as to what the Clandestine Society is for those who are tuning in still going like I still don't quite know exactly what it is. So, I guess we could say it is an invite only event which just doesn't happen. Like why invite onlys? To you.
To me?
It's like, yeah, why do you think they're doing invite only?
Because to be honest with you, a lot of the sources of the invites are still unknown. I know that like guys like Thaddeus Archer and obviously the society itself and all of that sort of stuff have sent out various invites to various people, but I'd have to assume a lot of it is maybe wrestlers, maybe promoters. Like the thing is with no storylines, no promotions, no nothing like that involved outside of the individual talents. Like there's nothing else to assume other than the individual talents are giving out invites, right? So maybe it is supposed to be a family and friends thing. Like you look at the stuff on the card, man, and to be honest with you, I'm leaning more towards the side of this thing is supposed to be a wrestling party, you know, like if you've got a death match on the card, how is it for family and friends?
that is a great way of putting it. It's just a big party. And it's just going to happen to have the best wrestling kind of going on. So I think we should talk a little bit about some of these matches that are going to be going on because we have not only top-notch matches, we've got interesting gimmick matches that I think it's the first time some of these have ever happened, which is exciting.
Sounds great though, man. Where do you want to start? This is your podcast. I am just the guest here. The guest does not want to pick the first topic.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, well, let's just start from the very beginning with the very first match that was announced. MRB, Artemis Spencer, Brandon Van Danielson.
Sorry, you go ahead.
So what I was going to say exactly, it's like 3 of Canada's top independent wrestlers in a triple threat match. And this is the first time that MRB and Artemis Spencer and BVD have ever wrestled all together.
I think... Not even all together.
Yeah, I think it's the first time they've ever wrestled with Artemis Spencer.
With any of them. Like MRB and BVD, I remember years and years back when they did have their little bit of a feud, to put it lightly. But since then, obviously, the both of them were great wrestlers then, Anthony. But what they've done over the past few years is just, it's truly incredible. You see what MRB is doing. Not only is he heading to the UK, not only is he appearing for WWE, not only is he going to their tryout in Canada that's held over, not only appearing there, but being one of the guys that's mentioned in WWE articles that they're writing about this tryout. Like he's one of Canada's best wrestlers, like bar none. There's full stop. There's not a ton else.
Period. Like there is no follow up to one of Canada's best. He just is.
Exactly. It's becoming a bit of a cliche in my articles, man, and I know this even myself, but God's gift to wrestling is a moniker he really earned. He didn't give it to himself. That's not a gimmick. That's not anything along those lines. Like that is something that he can probably say, and completely back up, right? Talks the talk and walks the walk. Brandon Van Danielson, you are not going to find a tougher son of a bitch in professional wrestling. Simply, I think we're past the 13-minute mark, right? We can curse now?
Just go ahead, man. Go crazy.
But seriously, man, like Brandon Van Danielson is one of the most interesting pro wrestlers in independent wrestling in the world to me. You watch this guy wrestle and like he is very, very much a throwback to like a hard hitting, badass pro wrestler. Like you think of guys like Stan Hansen, Harley Race, true traditional badasses. And I have no qualms throwing BVD, not even his proverbial hat, but just throwing his physical hat in the ring as far as the toughest bastard in pro wrestling, at least
there is
my experience with it.
There might not be another person who seems more intimidating in Alberta wrestling than BVD at points. When he looks angry, it's like you literally have to run away because the look that he can get on his face, he seems like a nice guy. I'll give him that. He's a terrifying monster when he wants to be, though.
Brandon Van Danielson could kill a brick. I don't have many other ways to put it. And like you said, I am certain he is a great human being. I have no qualms saying I am certain he's a hell of a guy, but he is also one of the dudes that in the nicest way possible scares the ever-loving shit out of me. And Artemis Spencer, dude, he is one of the, not sole, but one of the first reasons that I've ever wanted to go out to an ECCW show. Since I started getting into independent wrestling to the level that I have, he has been one of the guys that you watch, and he always is he's not only always impressive, but he's always doing something different. Like I compare him a lot to like a guy like Christopher Daniels, you know?
Right.
There's always something he's changing, whether it's subtle, whether it's a big change, mini or max, like whatever you may call it, man. Like he is always doing something different. He's always doing something interesting, but always staying very, very true to who he is as a wrestler, to sound like, you know, a bit of a douchebag about it. I really like Artemis Spencer. I am very, very excited to get the chance to watch him wrestle live. I don't have anything but great things to say about him as a pro wrestler.
Like one cool thing,
ring together.
Yeah. Oh man, these three are literally get to share this ring, and we get to watch it from like 10 feet away. Like that's something that we get to enjoy together.
Sorry, one cool fact, sorry.
Yeah, so one cool fact, and I know this is something that a lot of people like to talk about when it comes to Artemis Spencer. When you look at like highlights and tiers and achievements in the world of independent wrestling, one thing that always seems to come up on people's lists is doing a Battle of Los Angeles. And we have to mention that he was in a Bola this year.
Which is huge, man, because again, and Anthony, this is a whole different podcast altogether, man, but Albertan wrestling, despite how great it is, despite the reputation that it's gotten pro wrestling because of the Hearts and Stampede Wrestling, Albertan pro wrestling and Western Canadian pro wrestling as a whole really doesn't get the credit or the shine or however you want to describe it that it really deserves. So for a guy like Artemis Spencer, who, you know, he's still a guy getting better and better every year, but by no means is he a developing guy. For him to go out and not only appear in the Battle of Los Angeles, but do so damn well in it, look so damn good doing it, man, am I excited.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things when you see like one of those Canadian boys down there, you're just got to be cheering for them because you know what it's so hard breaking through the Canadian barrier into America a lot of the times, especially for independent wrestlers because of things like just like travel issues, the cost of going over, things like just the restrictions. Mm-hmm. To be able to do something like that, it's just so cool to see anybody be able to like doing that.
Absolutely, man. I think that ECCW, and I know we're going to talk about them, I'm sure, a little bit more here, but what they do as far as a promotion goes, as far as getting their talent out there, is huge.
Yeah, they do a great job. I cannot wait for my next road trip out to Vancouver because I got to go catch another show.
You and I both, my friend. I will be in the passenger seat on that one.
So we'll move on to the next match then, because we were talking a little ECCW there. Yep. Nicole Matthews and Zoe Sager.
Dude, I am so excited. You want to take this one first?
So something that's just, these two are just like incredible top-notch wrestlers. Like I've seen both of these, like obviously I've seen both of them wrestle before. I got to see Zoe Sager live just like 2 or 3 weeks ago at PWA show. It's always such a pleasure to get to watch Zoe Sager wrestle. But not just that, Nicole Matthews is a huge name when it comes to the Canadian independent wrestling scene.
Absolutely, man. And like the word legend is not to really be used lightly, and I don't think it really even can be properly applied to people still wrestling, but as far as big names in Canadian wrestling, as far as people that you really put in that upper echelon, as far as pro wrestlers go, not just female pro wrestlers, as far as pro wrestlers go, Nicole Matthews is right up there. She is badass. She is a hell of a pro wrestler. She is a hell of an individual, although she would probably murder me for saying so. Stuff that she can do in the ring is unbelievable, at least in my humble opinion. She's always been a favorite of mine. I am so excited to see the Shimmer take her back in Alberta. Hopefully still with the same fire she had after losing the Real Canadian Wrestling Women's Championship to the artist formerly known as Envy. But she's absolutely fantastic, man. And to be going head to head with someone like Zoe Sager, I've never got to see, outside of my time in Toronto, Nicole Matthews in a singles match. And the one time I did get to see it, at least live, was unreal. Absolutely unreal. And to get to see her go up against someone like Zoe Sager, who like you said, man, she is always a pleasure to watch. She is always someone I look forward to anytime a match is announced for her, and to see her get to go head to head with someone that's been a long time favorite of mine, it's going to be, it's, not to oversell the word, but it's going to be unbelievable.
Well, you can think about it in this regard. Both of these women have had like monumental milestones in their career. Like Nicole Matthews, she has wrestled for the Mae Young Classic, and
Yep.
Zoe Sager is, I don't know how many women can say that they've wrestled inside the Saddle Dome.
I completely agree, man. And you even look at it like Zoe Sager up until Force Pro Wrestling's Just the Tip. She was undefeated in singles action from January on. Nicole Matthews is a former ECCW champion. Not ECCW Women's Champion, ECCW Champion. Both of these people have proven they can go up against the best of the best regardless of gender, and now that they're going up against each other, I think there's going to be that little bit of extra fire to it, and that's coming from two people who leave it all out there, for lack of a less cliche way to put it.
No, I don't think you could make it even like it's a perfectly painted picture. These two are going to go to war. And if you're not watching, if you're not there live, you better be on the live stream because you won't want to actually miss any of these matches.
100%. And I do have to give a huge shout out to the society as a whole, but specifically Big Bad Boris and Mike Mahoney. Like
Mahoney.
It's a bit of a running gimmick now. I hope he's not mad at me for always doing that now.
It's great. Mike Mahoney, you don't know how to spell it. It's I like it.
I'm just going to start calling him by a different name, but that's neither here nor there. The work that those guys have done into providing the video work, the commentary work that I know that they're going to be doing for the thing, and getting the live streams organized through Backbreaker Media has been absolutely huge, as you mentioned. But I will plug as well. If you've got the opportunity, dear Wrestlesode listeners, which you should, make sure to check out the Clandestine Society's live streaming links. They'll be on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, completely free of charge for you to check out. Only this time. Other than that, they move to VOD. You are going to pay a fee to see some of the best of Albertan wrestling. Check it out for free. Don't pay the fee at Backbreaker Media. I just coined that, but I hope it works for them.
That was great. I just sat down here and I was like, I'm listening to a great commercial right now. This is fantastic. I can say this because I'm a big fan of your podcast, Conversations with Love. When I hear you talk, I get to sit. I'm just like, I get to listen to my favorite podcast now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's genuinely, like, in the nicest way. It's so still weird for me to hear that I've got like people who, actively listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I still can't believe people listen to mine either.
You know what I mean? It's like a weird thing to hear. Yeah, I actively listen, not just, hey, I checked it out. But next
I
up,
was like going back, like I was like going into your archives even, just so you know. Like I've listened for a lot of your episodes.
I'm really sorry about some of those earlier ones.
They were no, you don't. They were gold mines for quotes. I'll say some stuff like that.
Oh, good, thanks.
All right. Okay, so we've talked 2 of the matches, and I think there's still like 6 left. So let's talk about some of these. And you get to choose. You know what? Your turn.
Well, as you'll know, because you're a longtime listener of the podcast, my favorite professional wrestler of all time is one Winnipeg's own Chris Jericho, and I feel I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't take my first opportunity to speak about Y2 Jack Pride versus Davey-O Batista in the, to my recollection, first ever Imitation Game match.
Okay, so I marked out when every single match was announced, but when I saw this, we were having a conversation at that moment, and I believe my response was, "Wait, what? Hold on, what?"
Well, yeah, and what else can you say other than that? Because like, wrestling is obviously a very character-based and a very, very storytelling-based business already. So when you're already going out to tell a story and now you're trying to do it as another person, like, dude, I've never professionally wrestled, but what a weird trip that must be, man. But if there's somebody who can do it, Jack Pride and Davey O'Doyle are 2 guys that I thoroughly believe can do it, because obviously, with Pride, like, playing off the split personalities already, adding another one should be, and I use this using heavy air quotes, fairly easy for.
So I was thinking the exact same thing when I was noticing that it's an imitation game. And one of them was Chris Jericho. I was like, there really couldn't be a better wrestler in Alberta than Jack Pride to be able to convey a Chris Jericho, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. And like, you even see the stuff he's done throughout his career. He's the champ. He's directly referencing Chris Jericho in a lot of the stuff he does. You look at Swallowed Pride, like his finisher is reminiscent of the Codebreaker. Like, there's so much influence there as far as it goes with Pride, but I don't want it to ever sound like I am underselling what Davey O'Doyle can do. Because,
oh, no.
For one, the guy's a hell of a pro wrestler, but number two, that dude's love of Batista is insane. He introduced me recently to the fact that there is an acoustic version of Batista's theme song that he was going to enter to at Mania 30.
Oh, my God.
You're digging in deep at that point, right? Like, that guy, both of those guys, I don't want to say that guy or this guy, both of these people are going to do an excellent job, and it is going to be entertaining as all hell.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like, Davey O'Doyle is so much fun to watch. And there's this part of me that goes, I really hope that when he's imitating Batista, he does all the mannerisms perfectly, because Davey O'Doyle is the hairiest chested man that you'll ever see. And it just makes me so happy to know that I'm going to be seeing this. I love Davey O'Doyle and I love Jack Pride. This match is probably one of my favorite matches that I will ever see with my own eyes. I don't care who wins. Just to see these two guys go out there and put on their icons. Like, I know both of these guys, like you said, Davey O'Doyle is a huge fan of Batista, and Jack Pride's like favorite wrestler essentially is Chris Jericho. They're both giant marks. I cannot wait to see what they will do as people who are professionally great at putting on a show to begin with.
100%, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. They are going to go out there as performers, performing as performers. Like, what else?
It's performerception in here. Like, that's what's happening.
Wrestlers wrestling as wrestlers. Like the part of Chris Jericho to be played by.
Oh yeah, right. We're gonna have to put out like a trailer or something for this, like a movie.
Davey O'Doyle, Jack Pride.
Oh, man. The Imitation Game. But
I can't wait. I really can't wait. Anthony, I took the last one, my friend. It is on to you.
Now, let's talk about one that I'm actually incredibly excited for, because they are relatively new to me. And when I had specifically asked about them, let's just say it's Michael Allen Richard Clark versus Son of Irish. So, okay, so obviously I know Michael Allen Richard Clark, but I was less familiar with Son of Irish until I started watching some YouTube videos of Son of Irish. Obviously, son of the Irishman in RCW. I haven't been able to go to a show this year because I had a baby, but I watched videos of... Clearly, I have my priorities in the wrong spot, man. I should be out of all these shows. But I watched Son of Irish wrestle, and my brain went, wow. Like, who is this kid? Wow, this kid is insane. And Michael Allen Richard Clark is one of the greatest wrestlers, not just in Alberta, but just around. Michael Allen Richard Clark is great. He's a top-notch wrestler. Man, is he a good heel and a great talker. And the fact that he's not only that, he's PWA champion. They're going to be putting up this new kid, Son of Irish, who I just got to say right now, this might be the match that I'm the most excited for, because I've seen what both of these guys can do, and like, just the giant mark in me right now is like, I got like hair standing on the edge of my arm just thinking about this.
Absolutely, man. So Son of Irish, he's going to be my guest on Conversations with Love next week. Right. And he is probably one of the most interesting people I've got to talk to, because his perspective on pro wrestling is so cool. You know, you hear about second generation wrestlers, you hear about these people who grew up in the business, and I've been lucky enough to talk to a couple of them, but both of them are sort of grown out of like childhood, being a teenager. Son of Irish has been doing stuff in the ring. Like he told me when I spoke to him, he's been in a ring in some iteration since he was 3 years old, whether he's just sitting there, whether he's learning to take a first bump at 8 years old, which he's telling me, or whether it's now where he's 15, 16, 17 years old. it's incredible. Like the stuff that this kid can do, he is fearless. Yes, obviously he's a hell of a high flyer, but the thought that this guy puts into everything, the I hate the phrase because I feel almost wrong using it as a non-wrestler, but the psychology behind everything that he does, there's a reason for every move. There's a logic for everything that Son of Irish is doing, whether it is jumping off the top rope or whether it is taking it to the mat, because I think that that's something that is severely underappreciated about what he can do. But dude, you know what? As good as he is, like you look at Michael Allen Richard Clark, and as you said, he's the PWA heavyweight champion. He, other than Michael Richard Blaze, was the only other Albertan to go to the WWE tryouts when they were there in Toronto. He is an absolute stud. A hell of a pro wrestler. Like, how else can you say it? It's like, you know, when I do some reviews, Anthony, some of the things I say are like the best matches or the shortest reviews because it's, you simply need to go and watch this match. As far as Michael Allen Richard Clark goes, dude, I could either give you 45 minutes on him, or I could just say, like, I know you know, just watch him wrestle and you'll see how good he really, really is.
I will say there is nobody in the Alberta wrestling scene who does a better job at making me hate them more when they are in the ring than Michael Allen Richard Clark. And I think that is a lost art in the heel, because when he is in the ring, I forget that I actually like him as a wrestler, and I hate him so much. I feel like that's a lost art that he has perfected.
He's someone you can truly hate, and like, don't get me wrong, he's cool in the traditional sense that, like, obviously you enjoy what he does. He's a good wrestler, but he's not, like, for lack of a better comparison, it's Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens always got cheered, even when he's headbutting Vince McMahon. I mean, yeah, people are booing him at the time, but he's still celebrated online as this cool heel. I mean this in the best way possible, but you don't see the love for Michael Allen Richard Clark. Like, people hate seeing him live for all the reasons that you should hate someone who's as dastardly as he is. He is someone that is not out of character online for the most part, other than the fact that the dude loves Pantera, which kicks ass. Richard Clark is really, really easy to boo. And that's the great.
I couldn't have said that. He's so easy to boo. And I'll say this as a bus person, I like the bus. So just putting that up there. Sorry, Mark.
Come clean. I haven't taken the bus since I went to school, but
yeah, I haven't taken the bus in like a year or two, but I do enjoy bus time. So
oh, the headphones in? Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you headphones, play some Final Fantasy or something. Why not? It's a good waste of an hour. Anyways, next let's talk about the clusterfuck match. I mean the cluster, not cluster.
No, the kids are in bed by this point, Anthony.
That's why.
Well,
welcome to the. Well, it's a tribute. It's not a clusterfuck.
I'm gonna say this is not a clusterfuck. This is just a tribute, because obviously Joey Janela's got the rights to that one. But this one, man, like, even considering only about half of the participants, if that, have been announced by this point, it still looks like it's going to be a shit show. Just to keep the word clusterfuck.
There you go. Do you have the list of all the approved, all the announced people in this match so far?
If you can vamp for a second, I can
totally vamp for a second, because I can talk about the people that I know that are in this clusterfuck. I'm just going to say clusterfuck. I don't mind saying that. But let's start with some really interesting picks. Let's start with Taryn from accounting, because she's so new. So
very exciting, man.
I'm very excited. This will be my first ever Taryn from accounting match, and I hate saying that, but and I can't believe this gets to be my very first one for her.
Dude, anybody who enters, and I said it when I interviewed her, and anybody who enters to Dolly Parton is instantly good in my books, and she is thoroughly entertaining. She is just so damn lovable. Like, there is such an absence, whether it's on the independent scene or the worldwide sort of big wrestling companies, quote unquote, scene. There's such a lack of just pure lovable people in pro wrestling, like the true baby face, you know? And Taryn from accounting is that in spades. She is someone that, like, anytime you hear her music hit, anytime she comes through the curtain, like, you have a smile on your face. That's perhaps what I'm most excited for. And that's not to undersell what she does wrestling wise. She is very, very good as far as the in-ring stuff goes. And since starting to train at the Force Pro facility, she's only gotten better. But I'm really, really just happy to see her, for lack of a better way to put it, man.
Absolutely. It's just one of those things because, like, my first introduction to Taryn from accounting, beside, like, all the cool, like, looking at, like, the recaps and everything through the WCSN, was your podcast with her. And me going, this just seems like a really cool person, and I just can't wait to watch her first match. And that's why I've saved it for Clandestine. I haven't looked up anything because I want this to be my first Taryn from accounting match.
It's going to be a blast, man. I am excited for you. I do now have the list pulled up, so you pick someone else that you know, then I'll keep going.
So, I've got the list up now myself as well. There's a couple in here that I want to chit-chat a little bit about because I don't know anything about them. Can you tell me a little bit more about Baby Teve, please?
I can tell you stuff about him as far as a non-wrestling situation goes. Yes. Baby Teve is also known as referee Ryan Stevens. You will recognize him from the PWA. In shoot, he is Michael Richard Blaze's younger brother.
Yes.
And making his wrestling debut at the Clandestine Society, Baby Teve will be entering the clusterfuck. As far as an in-ring style goes, new.
New is a good one. Hey, you know what? We got to start somewhere, right? Why not in a clusterfuck?
Exactly, dude. I mean that in like I have no other way to describe him because I haven't seen him wrestle, but that's about all I've got for you. He is refereed. I've always enjoyed him as a referee. Excited to see
exactly. Him. Yeah, I'm excited to see because, like, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but let's talk about Andre the Giant.
The biggest guy in the world.
How tall is Andre? He literally is a giant. I've never stood beside him because I'm afraid that, like, he'll have some sort of gravity that I can't.
I would have to estimate 6'8" is on the small side. 6'8" is as low as I'm willing to go for that.
That's
I would go as high as 7 foot. I don't think my comparison for all of this is Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, where I stood next to Shaquille O'Neal. So I really don't know anybody over 7 feet tall, but I would have to assume that if I did, it would be him.
He might be the closest thing we have to that here. Exactly. He's huge. But let's talk a little bit more. We've also got the thickness in this match.
Yeah, and he's got to be on anyone's list, just given how his last year has gone for him, on anyone's list to potentially win this, because whether it be in Force Pro Wrestling, whether it be in the PWA, the guy's been pretty well dominant in every match he's gone through, you know. He lost to Barry Grayson at just the tip, but as far as I can recall, that was his first singles loss in months and months, since at least sort of January, February, because since winning the Mayhem title, I don't think he has, at least in the PWA. Hell of a pro wrestler. He is huge, but he is as agile as he is big, and that is a deadly combination in any sport, but especially in pro wrestling.
He also has probably the best chant in Alberta, with people chanting thickness, thickness. Oh, it's so much fun. I have my thickness shirt, so like I got my own
merch.
Great. But it's great merch. I love his merch. Yeah, absolutely. King of Thick style. I got that shirt like literally in my vision right over there. But you were even talking about Barry Grayson. Not only did he beat the thickness at just the tip, but he's in this match too.
Not a royal participant, and a guy that I really, really enjoy. I think they may not have debuted at the same show, but the first time that I ever got to watch both him and Zoe Sager, was November 2018. They were wrestling in a tag match against, if I remember correctly, it was Bobby Sharp and Kat Von Hees to kick it off, but eventually ended up in a 6-person tag match with the then Team Flex Appeal. That transitioned into Body Break, and Zoe, Barry, and Chris Steele. And between both Zoe and Barry that night, like it was pretty clear that the both of them had potential, and I think that maybe Zoe capitalized a little earlier on that. But I do think that Barry Grayson is quickly becoming one of the guys to watch over the next little bit, because there are a few who can, like he says, fly with the spaceman, and there are a few who really can fly like he can. He is very, very good with the aerial offense, and much like I talked about Son of Irish. I mean, like, there's obviously the age difference, but his ground game is surprisingly good. I quite like watching Barry Grayson, and I think that in a very different way than Reed Matthews, I think that he's another dark horse in this one.
Oh, I completely agree. I think Barry Grayson does a phenomenal job, and he's got such a great look. He looks so chill all the time, even when he's intense. You just look like the guy's like, "Hey, let's go to a barbecue together." Like, you know what I mean? He's just got that look about him. It's not just him and Kid Chocolate Mo Jabari. They just look like the type of guys where it's like they would have the best night out on a Friday night with those two guys. You know what I mean?
Actually never heard a better description as a pro wrestler, and you're going to start to hear that popping up everywhere. It's just like, yeah, Barry Grayson, a guy who Wrestlesode has said looks like a, quote, guy you'd go to a barbecue with.
But like a good barbecue, not like one of those like family barbecues with weird uncles and stuff. Like he's the one that like everybody's just chill drinking a beer and there's probably a pool around.
There's like a fire somewhere, but you don't necessarily need to cook over it.
It's more of like a prop in the party. Right. But Mo Jabari's the same as that. But Mo Jabari, so he's going to be in this match as well. He also seems like he's just such a chill guy. Whether he's a face or a heel, he just seems like such a cool guy, just in and out of the ring.
100%, man, and he's always been a personal favorite of mine. Genuinely, since I've started doing recaps, I've been talking about Mo Jabari because not only, again, he's another Storm graduate, he's another guy who very obviously got very good initial training as far as pro wrestling goes, capitalized on that, and then kept going because every time I watch him, there's something new that impresses me about him. He is very, very good as far as pro wrestling goes. Much like I talked about earlier with you, he's one of the guys that I could either give you 45 minutes or a full podcast on, or simply say that he's one of the guys that personally you need to watch in Alberta wrestling, not just in the future, but really, man, now. He's really good.
And not only that, he's got his own accomplishments. He's going to be wrestling in South Africa here in February.
100%. And I don't know, like, I know that this is I believe it's Slam Force Africa.
Their second show or something.
Yeah, it's their second show down there. I don't know what the scene is like down there, but even for someone from, again, like you look at Alberta and the lack of exposure that I personally believe we get up here, for him to be going down and wrestling somewhere like that is so, so cool to get to hear about. Quite obviously, the guy's got potential if he's not only going down there, but he's making appearances for WWE. Like, you know, people undersell how much an appearance for them means, whether it is just sort of walking out with Goldberg, which is the coolest shit ever, in my opinion. It means that WWE has not only noticed you, but wanted to bring you out and, like, meet you in person in whatever fashion that may be. And like, not many people get that opportunity. There are a few that I know in Albertan wrestling that have gotten that opportunity. And there's a reason that Mo Jabari is one of them.
Yeah. And he's such a talented wrestler. Not only that, he was a centerpiece with the whole Battle at the Dome thing for the PWA as well.
Yeah. He's marketable.
Oh, he's very marketable. He's got such a good look. I love the look of Mo Jabari. He's just such a cool guy.
That's such good shit.
Such good shit.
Who else? I guess it's my turn on this one. Somebody that I would like to talk about. We brought up briefly in his podcasting iteration, but the Canadian Goose, Kyle Shaw. And I've sung his praises a lot, Anthony, and I'll continue to sing them. Kyle Shaw, the Canadian Goose, is the best person that I've met in pro wrestling, and I don't think that many people would ever take that as an insult. He is a hell of an individual, and he is a guy that you want to talk about the importance of great training. There's training, and this isn't to say that he wasn't, quote unquote, properly trained, but since he's been wrestling with the Force Pro Wrestling guys and getting to go out and train with them, not just getting to train, but train on a consistent basis, dude, you watch him wrestle, and the amount of heart that he's got, and the amount of care that he's got, and the amount that he puts into pro wrestling as a whole is inspiring. And this isn't, again, to say anything against anybody. This is to say everything for him. There is maybe a handful of people that I've ever met that have the same amount of passion for pro wrestling that guy's got. So
he seems like he's got such a love for it, man.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to see him get this opportunity.
I believe it was during one of the introductions of the Clandestine Society when they were holding up the signs. I think you know it pretty well, but he was the one that stood out to me the most out of anybody because he started dancing.
Absolutely, dude. And the sexy Russian leg sweep that he uses is one of his signature moves. It's incredible. Everything that he does is enjoyable. Whether it's in the ring, he is just, dude, you talk about people with good hearts behind them, and I know that this goes outside of the clusterfuck quite obviously, but you talk about people with good hearts in professional wrestling, you talk about people that you want to see succeed in professional wrestling, and for me, Kyle Shaw is damn close to the top of that list, if not at it. So I would love to see him not only appear in this, which I know he will, but I would love to see him do well in it.
Oh, me
which
too.
I know he will.
Absolutely. So let's talk about a couple of the other people in this match because we still have a few left. So we've probably got, I don't know if they've, in terms of independent Alberta wrestling, I don't know if somebody's got more Twitter followers than Kylie Morgan. I don't think so.
Fun fact about her, like she's done cosplay for years, and if you've got the opportunity to, check out some of the stuff that she's done, because if you think she's a good pro wrestler, the stuff that she does in cosplay is mind-blowing, man. Like
it's insane.
It's pretty cool to see. It's pretty cool. Like I don't know much about cosplay or that whole industry. I'm not a big comic book guy outside of like your big name comic books, for lack of a better way to put it. If I am the WWE fan of comic book fans. You know what I mean?
There you go. Yes, you know the big names, but as soon as somebody says an independent name, you just go, no, I don't know who that is.
Exactly. It is so cool to see people get a following in any industry that are coming from here, and like the stuff that she's done. You look at her costumes that she does for this shit. Like, dude, there's a reason that like so many people give a shit about her.
She's awesome. She's
and from the limited interaction that I've had with her, because I've met her a couple of times at shows, luckily enough, like seems like a cool human being, man.
She's a great example of somebody who can make her name in multiple things, right? Like you said, she's a cosplayer and she's a professional wrestler here in Alberta. That's so interesting that somebody can have so many passions and do so well in both of them. And that's something that's incredibly exciting about Kylie Morgan.
Completely agree, man. And I think that she's someone who every time, again, you talk about a lot of these people, and every time you see them, they're improving. And for me, she's very much in that same boat. I think that she's, I think Alberta in and of itself is limited in the amount of wrestling women that we have here. But I do think the ones that we've got are good. And you can tell that any time that Kylie Morgan steps in the ring, she learns something new, whether she's facing a Zoe Sager or a Kayla J or a Kat Von Hees. She seems like a sponge, for lack of a better way to put it. Like anytime there's something new she can pick up, she seems to pick it up. And anytime I watch her wrestle, it gets better and better and better.
Yeah, and that's a great way of putting it. Like she just seems like one of those people that at every show you go to, she's like, she's gotten so much better. Like just looking at her, like she's done such a great job with that.
Exactly.
But you've already mentioned the Golden Child, so now we have to move on to Kayla J. Probably one of my standout picks probably for this match. She is such a good wrestler, dude.
Hey, Kayla! Sorry, I have to do it. Every single time, Billy Kay is probably my favorite pro wrestler ever of all time, anywhere. And that whole Hey, Kayla thing is a bit of an inside joke, but also not really an inside joke because it's blatantly obvious what I'm doing. Either way.
Thank you for explaining that back to everybody.
Very, very welcome. I'm sorry I just took up 2 minutes of your time. I award you no thanks. May God have mercy on my soul.
A quote from Billy Madison, man. We are so connected.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. There's a reason that Force Pro Wrestling puts on 2 shows, and she's in the main event of both of them with some of the top names in Albertan Pro Wrestling, dude. Kayla J is someone that, a lot like you and I talk about Jack Pride, or we talked about Michael Allen Richard Clark, is someone that every year you could put them on the proverbial breakout star of the year list, because every year they not only get better, but they do something big. And I think that not only was 2019 huge for Kayla J, but with a full year of Force Pro Wrestling in town, with her being one of those main event caliber superstars. I don't like using wrestling terminology if you can't tell, but being like a main eventer in the traditional sense, dude, she's going to blow up over the next year. I almost would use the Paul Heyman quote here. Like, that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. Like, she's going to have a huge year.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Watching Kayla J wrestle is one of those, like, you gotta love everybody in Alberta wrestling, but for me, for some reason, when I'm like, hey, Kayla J's gonna wrestle, I gotta pay extra focus because I'm like, she's gonna do something really awesome.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't look away for a half second.
No, I don't disagree with you whatsoever on that one. It's going to be it's going to be great. And like, even just as a sidetrack here, man, like, obviously a lot of the stuff we're talking about here is in like singles action, but you and I have talked, like, the Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view of the year. There is nothing I love more than a well done battle royal, because truly anything can happen. So like, we talk about someone like a Kayla J or a Thickness or someone of that iteration. Like, dude, for all we know, they could literally put a foot over the ring and get booted out in a second. I love the randomness of a battle royal.
Oh, 100%. And not only that, we were talking about just like complete and utter surprises. Ava Lawless. So not someone that I am necessarily familiar with. According to what I have here, she is a standout from the Joint Force Pro Wrestling PWA camps. Can you explain a little bit more about her?
I can explain that at the Force Pro Wrestling PWA Joint Mini Camp, she was a standout.
So you're about as far as I am. So I don't know too much about Ava Lawless. She's got a good look from what I can see. She looks like she's going to be a really great wrestler. I don't know anything about her. And I think that's another great thing that Clandestine is doing. They get to introduce a couple of new people. Like you were saying, you got Baby Teve over here and you have an Ava Lawless. Like, you've got two people that you've just, like, you don't get to see in other places. This is someplace you get to see them interact for the very first time. And that's so exciting to me.
I completely agree, and especially in a situation like this, because there are opportunities where you see people that, at least as far as I know, I should caution with both of them, are stepping into the ring for the first time. Obviously, at least on my end, like, safety is a primary concern, making sure they're taken care of, making sure they know what they're doing, and just seeing how the Clandestine Society has organized not only this event, but the matches on the event, the people that they've brought in for it. Like, there is no reason to think that either of those individuals will have anything less than, like, an excellent showing. And if you're going to get people in there for their first time, there's no better way than something like this, in my humble opinion.
No, 100. And you know what? This is something I always like to think of when I see a new wrestler for the very first time. Before I knew who Finn Balor was, they were just Finn Balor. Do you know what I mean? Before I knew who Bray Wyatt was, they were just Bray Wyatt. So, like, and that's how I always think of when I see someone who's brand new or someone I've never seen before. I go, this could be somebody that I get to say, how did I not know who this person was?
100% agree, man. Like, and one of my favorite stories to get to tell is one of the first wrestling shows I went out to for the PWA was Rachel Ellering's first match. Like, and that's just such a cool thing to get to be able to say, because now obviously signed to NXT, someone who is internationally known as far as pro wrestling goes. Like, again, we've gone back to the theme a couple of times here, but it's something I'll continue to pump, is like, you see what we actually can do in Albertan wrestling before this sort of whole raid of the indies. And yeah, that's about 4 or 5 years ago now, but before NXT and WWE started with that, PWA was one of, if not the, if I remember correctly, largest individual provider of talent to the WWE. And whether that is because of someone like a TJ Wilson or a Lance Storm, or I don't know who the connection there would be, whether it is just the fact that they're that damn good, that they're completely unmistakable. Like, that's such a cool fact. You look like Jinder Mahal, again, Tyson Kidd, Apocalypse, who is Rick Victor in WWE, unfortunately just released. Jinder Mahal, like Natalia, excuse me. I knew I said Jinder twice. I said I had 4 lined up here. Well, like, and that's only recently. You look at some of the people that come out of here, and yeah, man, you're not far off anybody on here with the right break, because I all think they're super talented, at least from the people I've seen. Things break right, and I think that any of them's got potential anywhere on this card, not just in the clusterfuck specifically.
No, 100%. And I think we have to bring a spoiler out there to some people from the international audience. Jinder actually is from Calgary, everybody. He's not from Punjab, India. So just so people know this.
Actually, one of my other favorite fun facts, the first Calgarian to carry the WWE Heavyweight Championship since Bret Hart.
How crazy is that? I'll say I'm actually a huge Jinder fan. Let me tell you a fun story, because this is just awesome. I was at work today. A delivery guy came into work. He was wearing a Jinder Mahal shirt. I'm just wearing like a just like a very basic Legend of Zelda t-shirt, something that's not important. But but I see this like Jinder Mahal shirt, and I like look at him, and he gives me this look of like, do you know what this is? And I went up immediately for the too sweet, and he was just like, yeah. And then their third guy there gave us both really weird looks. Like, how did these two random strangers just do a weird hand signal together? And it was just
I was at the Edmonton Pride Parade this year, or not parade this year, excuse me. I went to one of the festivities at the Pride Parade this year, and I wore my New Day shirt because it's my most colorful shirt, and I like that shirt, frankly. Mm-hmm. But I remember even telling my girlfriend, that's just like, you run into people in wrestling shirts everywhere. And same thing, you like the Finn Balor rainbow shirt, same thing. You go up, you're too sweet, everyone looks at you like you're a fucking idiot, and you move on with your life.
Yeah. It's just great that as wrestling fans, we have like a secret language, and like other people just go like, what did they just do? Why did those two people just do that? But inside we know it's because it's just too sweet to be a wrestling fan.
It's like Star Trek, but cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now we're going to have issues. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I knew throwing that out there would bug somebody.
I like Star Trek.
Unfortunately, have not gotten to yet, but he needs to be mentioned.
Yes, the very last one, and the reason I didn't say him until this point, because I didn't want to understate the importance that this is. Go ahead, sir.
Richie Rage making his return to the ring after, if my math is correct here, about 2.5 years, just under 3 years. And I don't know if it was his last match, but the last time that I saw him wrestle, Kenneth Anthony was actually turning heel on him as part of Rage and Fury, which was part of their tag team then. And he was always a guy when I was starting to go out to shows and only going sporadically and like just an enjoy a night out sort of sense rather than a coverage sort of sense. Dude, he was always a guy who stood out. The guy is built like a brick shithouse. He is a hell of a pro wrestler, and he is someone who I am, of anybody that was announced for this Battle Royal, he was probably the guy that I was like, I popped the most for. I'm so excited to see him back wrestling.
It's always exciting when you start thinking to yourself, you're like, well, this person isn't around anymore. I shouldn't think that I'm not going to get my hopes up I'll ever see them wrestle. Oh my God, they're wrestling again. I got to be there.
100%, man. Like, this isn't the perfect comparison, obviously, but like, it's like, I never thought I'd get to see Trish Stratus wrestle live. I got to see Trish Stratus wrestle live. Like, you have that moment of like, oh my God, this is happening. And I'm certain that on Saturday night, I'm going to have that moment with Richie Rage.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. And those are just all the people that are just announced specifically for the clusterfuck match.
Yep. There's still more to be announced. I'm certain even by the time that this is released, there's going to be more people who have been announced. But I'll just throw in a generic quote for all of them. They're all great. They all do a great service to the Albertan pro wrestling scene. Happy to be here. Excited to watch them.
That's a great way of saying that. Yeah. So let's move on. We've got a couple more now. We've got 3 more matches. And these are going to be exciting. Let's talk about the Above Average Joes versus Cody Chimera and Chris Parrish.
Yeah, you take this one first. I know I'm going to talk longer.
Oh, so that's fine. So Above Average Joes. Okay, so getting back into wrestling after my daughter was born, my first show back was the Battle at the Dome. And I got to watch the Above Average Joes beat the league and then retain or take back the PWA championships or take the PWA tag championships from the league. I was so excited by this. I remember running to the merch table and I was like looking for merch and I saw the Above Average Joes headband and I'm like, I gotta have it. So I took the headband, which by the way, my daughter has been in photo shoots wearing Above Average Joes headbands now. I'm a big fan. I know, right? I'm a big fan of Above Average Joes. Their Above Average tips on the Archer Report are just hilarious. Always Kenny Stryker and Aiden Adams are so funny. That one that they had with like the Halloween one where they were giving out tips to kids and it was like giving them all the stuff they need to do like pranks and graffiti. I just laughed really hard with that. I can say so many good things about the Above Average Joes. These guys are just top-notch wrestlers and my God, do they make me laugh. They are so funny. Mm-hmm. And they have a great theme song.
Yeah, that's completely correct. You're not wrong on anything you're saying, man. And like the Above Average Joes and Kenny Stryker and Aiden Adams individually, you know, I say it all the time, but they could have a good match with a broomstick. They're fantastic. They are two people that I'm always excited to see. But let's get real here, man. Like Cody Chimera is unbelievably good.
Yeah, they're gonna have their handful with him.
Yeah,
and Chris Parrish.
especially considering how relatively new Chimera is to the business. Like, he's been wrestling since November of 2018. He is just over a year into pro wrestling, and the amount of not only growth, but how good that guy is now. Like, he's not just a prospect, he's a top star. He is a first overall pick, immediately jumping into the lineup and succeeding in the NHL. You know what I mean? Like,
No, yeah.
hey, they're a rising star when they're this good already. And in a lot of ways, and I wrote about it in the article I did, man, like, in a lot of ways, Parrish is Cody Chimera's complete opposite. Like, he is a 15-year veteran of Albertan pro wrestling. And, you know, man, it's no secret he's a friend of mine. Like, love the guy to death. And just to see him hopping back into a pro wrestling ring after a quiet 2019, there's not really a way to put it, especially after his injury, leaving RCW and all of the sort of stuff that went with it. To see him back in a wrestling ring, to see him at this event, to see how much it sort of has meant to him personally is so cool to see. And, like, outside of that, this is a guy who was on the PWI 500 for fucking 6 years running. You know, it's not as though this guy isn't backing it up. He's the longest reigning CWC champion of all time. And, like, you know, I don't think people put enough into how long people hold championships in Albertan pro wrestling, because there's a lot of pro wrestlers out there. There's a lot of great options to be a champion out there. And to be someone who's holding it for over a year for a promotion is a pretty incredible thing, you know? He's a personal favorite of mine in and out of the ring. He is someone I'm excited to see. And this, my friend, is going to be a hell of a match.
I just had to sit and enjoy your summaries of this, because I'm like, there's like nobody more excited than Spencer when he gets to talk about Alberta wrestling. It's fun. It's infectious, man. So I want to go back to a little bit with Cody Chimera, because I just want to say this quick. So, like you said, he's been in this for 13 months. He's got the coolest look, like, already in wrestling. Like, it's just like, you see this guy look, you're just like, he's a natural wrestler. You just look at him, he's like, yeah, that guy must be a professional wrestler for a living. And he's been doing this for 13 months.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably, and just from what I can tell of him, I probably would have thought he was a pro wrestler like 2-3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like you say,
right?
Like,
no, that's exactly. He's just got this look. You just look at him, you're like, he's a wrestler, probably.
Yeah, completely agree with you, man. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited for Parrish. I'm excited for the above average shows, dude. I am just excited.
And I'm just super excited for this as well. And this is the best part about that. This is the only tag match on the entire card.
Yeah.
Isn't that just also crazy to me? I love tag matches, and like the tag wrestling is one of my favorites. So this match is going to be like right at the top. Watching these guys perform, like it's just going to be beauty just being painted in front of me.
I am so excited for us.
Right? We will be there. I'm excited for everybody who gets to watch, but they don't get to watch all of them there. Oh, so lucky.
We can be selfish for a second.
A little selfish, a little self pop there. You know what I mean? We got to mark out to be. We have to be excited to be wrestling fans as well, right? Like, that's why we're here.
Exactly, man. 3 matches left, if my math is correct.
Two.
Oh, which one do you want to do first?
We got to go with the death match. We have to go with the death match, because
is this your first death match too?
This is my very first ever death match. I've never seen one live. I've always been kind of scared to see one live, because I've worked in medicine and I was trained in first aid and all this kind of stuff. So as soon as I see blood, my first thought is, let's go help that person. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, thank goodness I'm there. If something goes down, by the way, Clandestine, I might be able to do like the stopping of the blood. After that, go to a professional. But well, I can only imagine there will probably be blood in this match. Evan Adams, Sheik Akbar Shabazz, and Colton Kelly. Now, where do you want to start with this?
To be quite honest with you, Anthony, this is probably going to be the one I've got the least amount of information on, because again, I've never seen a death match live and in the flesh before, and two, I've never watched Evan Adams wrestle before. As far as I'm aware, he took a couple of years off. My numbers may be wrong on that, so I do apologize in advance, but took a couple of years off. This is also his first step back into the ring in a long while. The only thing that I've ever seen of Evan Adams, outside of what I've watched of him on YouTube since this match announcement, The first experience I have with him was him breaking a brick over his head in that promo video. So
that is my first experience with him as well. I won't lie, and going, whoa, what is this guy?
yeah, like if you thought that this was going to be like your like a quote unquote PG death match, like that instantly just tells you no.
No, it's immediately going to be bad.
Sheikh Shabazz is badass. I have never known him to be a deathmatch guy, love death matches, anything like that. So, like, number one, that was interesting to find out. He again, in the nicest way, like, he's terrifying. He is a dude that I have no doubt is going to lay some damage in. He is going to F some S up to keep it a little tame on that end. But, dude, the one guy that I can wax poetic as far as this goes is Colton Kelly. The first time I met him, within the first 15 minutes of talking to him, he was telling me that his dream match was New Jack. And anybody that tells me that, I have to put my money firmly behind, because this dude is as good as he is sadistic. You even see some of the stuff that he does in, again, the quote unquote, like PG family friendly promotions like a PWA, and that stuff he's laying out there is absolutely insane. He was the first guy I ever saw take a tack bump live. That is always horrifying, and I know it's been done since, but you know, Anthony, you always remember your first, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's how it always goes. So I could disagree with anything you said. I went back and I watched a couple of Evan Adams matches from a couple of years ago. See, I watched him wrestle against MRB. The dude is very talented. And he also is crazy. So when it comes down to this, I'll say, so Evan Adams and Colton Kelly, they're not as big as Sheikh Shabazz. Sheikh Shabazz, like, let's just say if it wasn't Davey O'Doyle being Batista, I would say it would have been Sheikh Shabazz. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was related to Batista in the way he's built.
He's a monster in all of the most positive ways to say that. The guy's built like a shithouse. I am terrified of him in every way you should be terrified of a pro wrestler.
Yes, and Colton Kelly, like you said, he is also actually insane. So we've got like a giant beast man who's an incredibly talented wrestler against two other incredibly talented, insane wrestlers in a death match. Now, I don't know if you know this, but somebody might die.
I certainly hope not.
I hope not too. Let's just say I hope not. Let's hope everybody lives to fight another day. But dude, let's hope the recovery is like 3 days at the very minimum.
I just hope everybody tries their best and has fun.
Yes, and I actually hope nobody dies. Just for
and the third thing, try best, have fun, don't die.
Yes, I'm pretty sure we're probably going to hear "Please Don't Die" chants at this show.
I'm pretty sure we're going to start that before it starts.
Before the show starts, let's just start chanting "Please Don't Die." Like that's how we start the show. People start off chanting, you know, like
live stream's going to open.
Yes, people go like NXT. We're like, "Please don't die."
Well, and the same can be said about the next match and our final match for a very different reason. Anthony, this is your podcast. I want to let you have the honors of describing this match.
So the reason I left this one specifically for the end is because if there's any children still listening, just turn this off right now. Don't listen to the rest of this, because this match is a dildo on a pole match, which I guess you could say is a pole on a pole match in a weird sense. What is a dildo on a pole match? We have Mike McSugar and Dylan Stone. What is a dildo on a pole match?
Anthony, the short answer is that it's exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be, so in a traditional sense, a blank on a pole match stipulation is so you have two poles in opposing corners of the wrestling ring. And the object is to go and obtain that item, obviously, while still winning the match via pinfall or submission. The condition is when you capture the object, and this is different from like a flag on a pole match. Once you capture the flag, you win. But on a object on a pole match, once you obtain that object, you are able to use it as a weapon. And not only that, you are the sole individual in the ring able to use it as a weapon. So I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a good match, but Alexa Bliss and Bayley had that kendo stick on a pole match.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Bayley obtained it. She was the only one who was able to use it. She eventually just was not able to use it. Alexa Bliss got it back, won. Right. In this match, basically, for lack of a better visual picture for you, just imagine that, but like they're swinging a giant phallic device.
So, for the listeners out there, we got to make this clear. We hope they will not be used for their intended purposes, but we want to use them as weapons. So let's talk the Dylan Stone promo right now, because I think that's the best way to lead into this. If anybody has seen Silence of the Lambs, you'll know that
You've already described it.
Yeah, you remember that part in the mirror? Let's just say that happened again. So, man. Okay, Dylan Stone, he put on a really great tribute to Silence of the Lambs, essentially talking to Mike McSugar about going far enough into this match. It was probably the greatest film cinematography I've seen in all of Alberta history, probably.
I think you can just eliminate probably from your lexicon.
You're right. It was just the greatest thing. It was something that I watched it, and I had so many emotions. I had things you don't feel usually when it comes to wrestling. There was a lot of confusion. Yeah, confusion was a big one. Curiosity, weird excitement. Like, I don't know. It was just great. I loved it. These guys are going to put on such a good show. Let's talk a little bit about them. So we have Mike McSugar and Dylan Stone. So I know quite a bit about Dylan Stone. Obviously, the guy, holy crap, is he an amazing wrestler. Mike McSugar, I don't see wrestle around here very often, so I don't know too much about him.
Well, and I got to be honest with you, man. Like, there's not a ton I could tell you about the last few years as far as Mike McSugar goes, because I can't remember when it was. But at some point, Mike McSugar either started wrestling more in Saskatchewan, or he'd always been splitting time and just stopped wrestling in Alberta, or whatever the situation there may be. Because I do remember him a couple of times out for the PWA, and I remember him being one of the most damn entertaining professional wrestlers that you will ever watch. I think that this match is perfect for so many reasons, and one of them is because you could not find two people who would be more committed to not only the obvious humor side of it. Like, let's get real here. Nobody's going into this expecting this to be a damn bloodbath. Everybody's going into this expecting it to be the most damn entertaining match on the card. And I have no doubt, considering the two guys there, whether it is, again, like McSugar, much like you, I'm a little more unfamiliar with. But if you see the stuff of him online, he's very entertaining. He is a hell of a dude to get to watch wrestle. And he is a hell of a dude to get to watch wrestle. His feud with Michael Allen, Richard Clark over the last little bit for HIW was fantastic. And I am excited to get to see him again in singles action in Alberta, whether it is with a stipulation like this or not. And Dylan Stone, dude, I don't have to sing his praises. He is ridiculous, fantastic, wonderful, lovable, and outstanding in every sense of all of those words. I much like the way that you talked about people earlier, he is someone that any time that I see he's announced for a card, whether it's like someone like Kayla J for you, I'm excited. I automatically know that card, whether it's a straight up wrestling match like the one he had with Matt Taven, whether it is something like a goddamn dildo on a pole match, you're going to enjoy it. There's going to be something he does that you're going to love. I'm excited.
Can you just believe that this is all just Alberta wrestling? This is happening Saturday. This is happening in front of our eyes. How lucky are we, man?
I don't disagree, and it is a big thing. I don't think there are a lot of pro wrestling scenes out there, whether you look at Ontario, like a major market like Chicago. Like, the only places that, to me, I think you could do something like this would be like a full-on country. Like, Japan could put on a super show, and Mexico could put on a super show. Or full states could be putting on super shows potentially. But, like, number one, I don't know enough about them. And number two, I just don't think that you could create a scene or a show or whatever you want to describe this as anywhere else in the world.
No, I don't think so. And We also have to say that a lot of these wrestlers, you're looking at this as incredibly cross promotion between some of these promotions here in Alberta. And it is such a nice feeling to see some of these matches that you just otherwise would never be able to get to see, right? You get to see MRB or like Mark versus Son of Irish. That's a perfect example right there, right? We got the PWA champ and a wrestler for RCW. Gonna go and put on a freaking barn burner for us.
Yeah, completely.
I love this.
I completely agree, man. This is something, and as you said, as far as the cross promotion goes, you hadn't watched Son of Irish wrestle until you saw that this match was announced. And now whether he is wrestling for RCW when they go down to Calgary, whether he's out in Whitecourt, wherever CWE is doing a show that's outside of either Calgary or Edmonton, because I know they do a lot, whether it's something like that, whether he ends up switching a company and they're in Calgary, whatever it may be, like, you're that much more likely to go and see them because he was on this card, right? Like, and I think that that's a big thing. And you know, man, I don't want to make this a 7-hour podcast for you, but I think that working together like this, you know, you saying that sums all of it up for me in the sense that it is so valuable to have wrestlers working in a myriad of different places rather than just sticking to their guns in one spot. But that's all personal opinion. That's from a guy who's not a pro wrestler. Anyone else who has stepped into a ring probably has a little bit more right to comment on that than I do.
I can't say anything either. Of course, I am a fan from day one till today. I've never stepped inside of a ring, but as a fan, this just makes me so excited to be able to see these people because, like you said, I didn't know. I've never seen Son of Irish before. I knew obviously the Irishman. I've been aware of Son of Irish, but I've never seen them actually wrestle as a wrestler. It wasn't until I started researching I was like, oh my god, who is this kid? I know this kid. This kid's amazing. And the fact that we're going to be introducing a lot of these talents to not just Alberta, but mainstream. This thing is being streamed across 3 platforms all over the place for free. So you have to be watching this.
And we happen to know for a fact that Chris Jericho, whether he watches or not, has the link. He has acknowledged that link. So if Chris Jericho is watching, then there's one more guy who will be treated to how damn good Albertan pro wrestling is.
I'm sure he's aware of it. If there's one professional wrestler out there who's at the top of the industry, who knows the Albertan scene, it is Chris Jericho.
Well, other than us.
Well, other than us, obviously. He's a little bit out of the... He lives in Florida now. He's no longer a Canadian. I'm just kidding. But, Spencer, thank you so much for being on here today talking the Clandestine Society Act I with me. This has been such a fun over an hour. Oh, I don't even know how long it is. I stopped looking at the timer a while ago. An hour, like 10, approximately.
If whatever time period this was, it was enjoyable, man. And I thank you for having me on here. It was an absolute blast, and I am absolutely psyched to see you up here on Saturday night, my friend.
Oh, I cannot wait. Please plug all the things you want to plug, Spencer. This is your opportunity, even though we're on the same platforms.
Me? Well, I don't have a ton to plug, which is kind of nice. You can find anything and everything that you would want to find on the WCSN, the Win Column Sports Network. Of course, that is your source for previews, reviews, breaking news, and interviews from the Western Canadian pro wrestling scene. That's not only myself. That is a guy like Anthony. That is a guy like Kyle Shaw, Mike the Ref, Ben, all of the sorts of guys that you want to get your content from as far as Albertan pro wrestling goes. We've got it there. So check us out. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. We're pretty well anywhere. If you look up the Win Column Sports Network, we're the only people with that name. So just Google it, search it up. You will find us, but wincolumnsports.ca if you want all of it all the time.
Fantastic. Thank you again, buddy. And anybody who's still listening, if you want to remember to hit like and subscribe on this podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and review if that's what you want to do. You can check me out on Twitter. I am at Wrestlesode or at facebook.com/Wrestlesode. Or you can check out my website at wrestlesode.com. But really, wincolumnsports.ca is the place you want to be. That's where you want to be. Have yourself a wonderful night, everybody. And thank you again, Spencer.
Thank you, friend. That was a blast. I look forward to the next time.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Ah, that was so good.
Oh yeah, that was a fucking blast. I will have to let you go right now because Morgan got home about 15 minutes ago.
I think I heard the pizza get delivered onto your desk.
Yes, it did, and I've just been staring at it ever so long. So I'm gonna let you go, but fuck, honestly,
no problem, buddy.
I'm sure I'm gonna chat to you in like 10 minutes. I sent you over a couple of things, including the full in order match card for Saturday night.
Oh, fantastic. All right, buddy. I'm going to take a look at that. You go enjoy your pizza and girlfriend time.
Beauty, brother. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, buddy.